Hello, Lancers. Tomorrow is Good Friday. On this day, every year, the Christian world stops to remember the suffering and death of Jesus. There are 14 steps or stations that Christian pilgrims to Jerusalem observe and attend. To these places are holy and mark the events of our suffering Lord.
While we cannot all travel to Jerusalem to pray the Stations of the Cross, we can use our minds and our imaginations to try to see Jesus' suffering and death in other places in our lives, in places closer to our home here in Brampton. Let's see if we can make the connection. Let's ask God to reveal Jesus' suffering and death to us in a different way.
We are going to be presented two images. The traditional image of the 14 Stations of the Cross, and an image from our Brampton urban forest. The traditional images we will see were prepared by our Cardinal Leger visual arts class a number of years ago. They have been done in a First Nations artistic style. They will remind us of what we should be looking for. The second picture from the urban forest, well, we'll leave that to the Lord. We trust that the Lord will provide what we need to be able to understand. Let's try to make the connection. God's love is written everywhere throughout His creation. God's love is in our hearts. Let us journey now on these 14 steps.
First station, Jesus is condemned by Pilate. Carefully look at this vine. It grows silently. It clings to the tree, rock, or hard surface. It doesn't let go. It spreads until it takes over. Sin is like this in our lives. Once it takes, it clings to our hearts. It distorts the light of truth and justice. It distorts our decision-making and our judgment. How often do I ignore you at school and the person no one wants to talk to? How often do my words condemn you in the way I speak about others? It was not only the Jews at Pontius Pilate who condemned you, but I stand next to them shouting just as loud, "Crucify him." Jesus, forgive me for the ways in which I condemn and pierce others with my words and actions. Help me to love like you and to learn from your example.
The second station, Jesus takes up his cross. The timber had to be strong. It had to bear the weight of a dying man. Hard wood is strong. It is dense and heavy. You and I have to carry heavy burdens. Like Jesus, these burdens are thrust upon us. Our burdens are awkward and hard to grasp and carry. How often do I forget that you've carried the load for me? How often do I try to carry things on my own, not allowing you to help me? It was not only the sins of the world that you carried. It was my sin, my selfishness, my pride, my anger. Each added more weight to the load. And it was not only my sin you carried, but also my burdens, my worries, my fears, my sadness, my insecurities. Each you carried step by step up towards Golgotha, the place of the skull. Jesus, help me not to forget the load that you carried for me. Give me strength and the courage to let go of those things that separate me from you.
The third station, Jesus falls for the first time. Falling is painful, it's embarrassing, it's unexpected, it's disturbing. We look for causes. Why? It is a sign of weakness, often the result of force. When something falls, can it get back up? Will it get back up? How many times have I fallen in my walk? Too many to count, I'm sure. So many times when I fall, I don't feel like getting back up and trying again. There are too many temptations that I am faced with that feel too fun and easy to do because so many around me are doing them. Jesus, help me to remember your courage and perseverance when you fell. Give me the courage to get back up when I fall. Help me remember that it is worth it to live as you lived.
The fourth station, Jesus meets his mother. Some things are so beautiful that in the gloom or despair of suffering, they lift our hearts. A flower can do this. The fragrance, the colors, The delicate petals remind us of the beauty of God's creation. There are so many times when I feel alone in my struggle. It seems that no one understands what I'm going through, especially my parents. But I realize they must. How many times have I hidden things from them, from my parents, out of fear or what they would say or what they would do? And when all they want is to love me. Jesus, help me to remember that I am never alone in my struggle. Help me to see my parents as you saw yours. Help me to know their love for me. And when things are hard between us, help me to remember the light of your mother in your life.
The fifth station, Simon helps Jesus carry his cross. Nature can be harsh and unforgiving. The forces of nature can overwhelm and destroy. The raging winds can topple majestic trees. Support is needed. What burdens have you been asked to carry? When have you helped carry someone else's cross? Were you asked to help? Were you forced to help? When has another person helped you? How often do I pass up an opportunity to help someone in need? Do I let what others may think of me stop me from reaching out? Jesus, open my ears to hear the ways that you call me to serve. Help me to follow Simon's example of helping others. Help me to know what it means to be a true and faithful servant.
The sixth station. Veronica wipes the face of Jesus. This tree has been scarred and beaten. Its bark has been carved and defaced. This image is painful to look at. How painful it must have been to see the image of Jesus' face left behind on the towel she wiped his face with. How many times have I forgotten that each person is made in your image and likeness and therefore deserves my respect? Do I make others objects of my pleasure and ignore their humanity? Veronica courageously stepped forward and dared to treat you differently than everyone else. Could I do the same? Jesus, help me to see your presence in others. Give me the courage to follow Veronica's example of treating others with love, even when no one else does.
The seventh station, Jesus falls the second time. Falling, cracking, splintering, crashing, smashing, thundering. The forest vibrates. Dust fills the air. The earth trembles. The birds and animals run for safety. The tree canopy opens. Falling and crashing. How many times have I failed to follow through on my promises? Or worse yet, how often have I lied to even people I care about? Do I remember your faithfulness even when I fail? Jesus, help me to believe in your faithfulness and love. For me, give me grace to follow through on my words to others. Help me to be a person of integrity.
Eighth station, Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. The winter dormant forest looks lifeless. It looks dark. The forest is reflected by the stream of water that travels through its center. Bare branches, broken tree limbs, fallen trees are reflected in the water. The stream continues to slowly move, spreading the sad images it is forced to project and reflect. Do you listen to your words in my life? How often have the things I've watched or listened led me away from you? Have I allowed the gospel of life to reign in my heart? Jesus, help me listen to your words of life. Show me ways I can put you first.
The ninth station, Jesus falls for the third time. Let us contemplate this image of the broken, damaged forest in silence. The fragility of even powerful, mighty things. How many times have I let my flesh win over my spirit? How often have I chosen to sin rather than to follow your way? Was it my sin that became too heavy, that you fell this third time? Jesus, help me to follow your ways. Help me remember your victory over my sin. Give me grace to recognize when I sin and the desire to sin no more.
The 10th station, Jesus is stripped of his garment. The tearing away of bark reveals the softer, smoother, tender layer of the tree. The bark is used by a tree to protect it from insects, animals, and diseases. Without the bark, the tree is vulnerable and naked. How often have I judged others by the way that they look or what they are wearing? Do I find my own self-worth and self-identity by the clothes I wear or the way I look? Jesus, help me to look past the outside of others. Help me not judge them by how they look or what they wear. Help me to find the self-worth and identity in you.
The 11th station. Jesus is nailed to the cross. We are told that trees do not feel pain, that trees are not sentient beings. To feel pain is to suffer. There are degrees of suffering, a scale of pain. All living things must die. All living things will die. Some things die in horrible, extreme ways. Why must we suffer, Lord? Why is there suffering in our world? In reflection, I am angered by the soldiers. I can't understand why they are doing this to you, and yet what is hardest to realize is that not only am I in the crowd watching all of this, but I'm also one of them nailing you to the cross. How many times has my sin become a strike of the nail into your body? How often do I turn away from your mercy? Jesus, I am sorry for nailing you to the cross with my own sin. Help me to seek your forgiveness and mercy for the times that I sin.
The 12th station, Jesus dies on the cross. The absence of life is death. In the forest, death appears to be final. It is grotesque. After death, rot and decay render things to dust. This once beautiful tree, which was covered with leaves and produced fruit in season, is no more. It is dead. There is no reverence in the forest. Jesus, help me never forget your love for me. Help me to know that you died for me. Fill me with comfort in knowing that I never suffer anything you don't understand.
The 13th station. Jesus is taken down from the cross. There is a powerlessness with death. There is a vulnerability that all living things will experience. There is no longer an ability to react or respond. Time continues for the living. Time stops for the dead. How many times have I lost hope in you? How often have I doubted your ability to be God in my life over all things? Jesus, help me to trust in you. Help me to place all my hope in you and give me peace in knowing that you are Lord over all things.
The 14th station. Jesus is laid in the tomb. There is a connection between death and stone. We have since primitive times marked the graves of the dead with stone. Granite, marble, plus limestone are often used. Stone plus rock are strong substances. They are an attempt to permanently mark the vulnerable and short life of living things. How many times has death felt like the end? When I have lost a loved one, it can be so hard to remember your victory. How often do I miss the opportunity to say I love you to those special people in my life? Do my family and friends know how I feel about them? Jesus, help me always remember that death is not the end. Give me the strength to say the words, I love you, to those people in my life that I do love. Help me to love every person, not just in words, but also in my actions. Jesus, I love you, I need you, and I trust you. Amen.